Conor McGregor, Notorious, the eye-opening tale of the real Conor McGregor. In the space of 4 years, the reigning UFC lightweight champion has gone from collecting the dole in Ireland to bagging the biggest payday of his combat sports career. Over the course of that time, there have been many highs and lows for Ireland's first UFC belt holder, who single-handedly took the sport of mixed martial arts to new levels in 2016. All of these moments, with the exception of his historic UFC 205 victory over Eddie Alvarez, have been brilliantly captured in Conor McGregor, Notorious. Directed by Gavin Fitzgerald, the 90-minute-long biopic gives McGregor and mixed martial arts fans the opportunity to see the makings of the biggest star MMA has ever seen and an in-depth look at 3 of the biggest fights in UFC history. McGregor's UFC 189, 194 and 202 bouts with Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo and Nate Diaz all come under the microscope in never-before-seen footage, giving fight fans the opportunity to see a side of Mystic Mac which is normally reserved for those closest to him. The film opens up with highlights from McGregor's unanimous decision victory over Diaz at UFC 202 before taking the audience back to the days when he was struggling to make ends meet and living in his parents' house. From there, it lays bare the relationship which was the driving force for McGregor reaching the pinnacle of the MMA world. That, of course, is the 9-year-long relationship he's had with the mother of his first child, Dee Devlin. McGregor's relationships with his long-term coaches John Kavanagh and Owen Roddy are also laid bare, as well as the bonds he shares with his training partners Artem Lobov and Gunnar Nelson. Not only does Notorious give those unfamiliar with McGregor's rise to superstardom a look at how the Notorious came to be, it also shows the human side of the UFC's poster boy. Much like McGregor's UFC career, Notorious moves at a rip-roaring pace, gliding through his impressive victories over Max Holloway, Diego Brandao, Dustin Poirier and Dennis Siver. That is until McGregor lands a shot at then featherweight champion Aldo, who at the time hadn't tasted defeat in a decade. A large chunk of the film centers around McGregor's preparations for his encounter with Aldo, which was due to headline UFC 189. Not only do we get to see the inner sanctum of McGregor's infamous training camp, we see his reaction to the news of Aldo's withdrawal from the bout with a broken rib, which was broken to him by UFC President Dana White and former UFC CEO Lorenzo Fertitta. We also learn that the 29-year-old was preparing for the biggest fight of his life with a torn ACL. Longtime MMA fans, and indeed new followers of the sport, will be fascinated by McGregor's handling of the news and the determination he showed to get through the remainder of his training camp and fight with a possible career-ending injury. It would have been all too easy for Notorious to focus on the highs of McGregor's career and make light of the biggest setback of his career, his UFC 196 loss to Diaz. But this film doesn't do that. In fact, it shows us never-before-seen footage of McGregor's reactions to his sole loss inside the octagon. Not only do we see a vulnerable and disappointed McGregor express his sadness to those closest to him, we immediately see the drive and determination which led to him avenging his loss to Diaz and eventually claiming the lightweight title at UFC 205. Unfortunately, McGregor's multi-million-pound boxing match with Floyd Mayweather Jr. isn't covered at great length. In fact, the biggest fight in boxing history is nothing more than a mere footnote at the end of the film. Despite very little time being devoted to Mayweather vs McGregor, Notorious delivers in spades. Not only does it give those unfamiliar with McGregor's rise to superstardom a look at how the Notorious came to be, it also shows the human side of the UFC's poster boy. A side which is often overshadowed by his antics on the mic. Although McGregor is a polarizing figure in the eyes of many mixed martial arts fans, they would be foolish not to take an in-depth look at how he has become the man he is today.